What's up, Backyard Smokers? This is an experiment. We don't know if anybody's going to tune in. We don't know if there's any interest on a barbecue smoking page about barbecue competitions, about barbecue festivals. We know there's a lot of interest in backyard smoking. We know there's a lot of interest in what kind of smokers you're using, what you're cooking, what your weekend plans are. And I wish that I was some great guy like Brad or one of those guys who could give you advice and give you tips on all of that stuff. And I do a little backyard smoking, but at the end of the day, that's not what I do. I put on barbecue competitions all over North Georgia. I put on barbecue festivals. I own a company called BBQ and Brews, and Wes and some of the admins thought it might be a fun thing to get on here and talk shop about that. And while we're gathering an audience and while we're trying to figure out what's going on next, let me give you a little bit of history on that. If no one tunes in, I'm going to go crawl in a corner, drink a little bit of bourbon, and move on with my ego wounded tonight. But I have done events my whole life. I came from a biker community, doing a lot of bike events, doing a lot of city events. About a year and a half ago, we had the desire to do something different in our community. We started looking at all the different festivals, all the different functions that were happening in our community, and we felt like in our area there was a huge need for just a kick. I forget this is a family-friendly website, but we thought there was just a great need for a kick-ass barbecue festival in our area. And we held the very first BBQ and Brews the last weekend in April last year in my hometown of Canton, Georgia. And to say it was a success would be an understatement. We had about 12,000 people show up. I think for our first competition, we had about 45 teams. If I remember correctly, about 33 of those teams were pro teams. The rest were cooking for fun teams. We literally gridlocked our downtown area. We brought in a bunch of craft breweries from the area, and it was a huge, huge success. And from that, what ended up happening was a company was founded. We started having towns. Thank you guys for tuning in. What ended up happening was a bunch of other towns around North Georgia started asking us to do barbecue and brews festivals. And so, I don't know, very few of you are from North Georgia, I think, when there's 25,000 people on this Facebook page. But what ended up happening was, in the last year, we just got done holding our third event, and we are 2 weeks away from holding our fourth event, our second time in Canton, and it's going to be our biggest event ever. It's the first time that we've gone 2 days. We've got about $22,000 in prize money, which in our estimation is one of the biggest prize events in North Georgia. We're actually, all of our events are Georgia Barbecue Association sanctioned. So we love the relationship with the GBA. We love the leaders in the GBA. We love working with guys like Brad and Robbie and Lonnie and all the great teams that are out there. And so every one of our events have been GBA sanctioned events. And the one that's so interesting about the one that we have coming up is, in their point system, this is a double point competition. So we should have a good crowd for that. And we're adding a twist to it. So Friday, the competition starts. It ends on Saturday around lunchtime. Like I said, it's double points. We've got about $11,000 or $12,000 in prize money for that. And as soon as that portion of the competition is over, Saturday to Sunday, we start whole hog. And that's the first time we've ever done anything with whole hog. It's unsanctioned. We do have some great representatives in the GBA who know how to judge that. And there's another $10,000 in prize money for the whole hog. And top 5 teams win that, so the winner will walk away with $5,000. We are pretty much no hosting that. We're going to lose our butt financially. No way we're making $10,000 in entry money. But we're excited about it. We're excited about teams. We've got teams so far coming far away as Mississippi. And we want our Canton Festival, because it is our hometown, to become our flagship festival. We have 2 more festivals coming up this year. One in Ellijay, if you're familiar with Georgia at all, that's in North Georgia in the mountains. And then one in Woodstock in partnership with one of our great sponsors, Reformation Brewery. And so not only do we do barbecue competitions, we add to an element of that barbecue festivals. And our festivals, at the end of the day, are what we do best. We do a good job of competitions. We're still learning, but we do a great job of festivals. For example, our Canton Festival is probably going to have about 20 to 25,000 people there over 2 days. We'll have 2 stages, probably around 20 bands. We have a ton of retail vendors that'll be there, craft breweries there. We'll have 30 taps of, we're adding wine this time, so we learned out that ladies get sick of barbecue and they get sick of beer, so we'll throw them some wine. Hey, Wes, how are you, man? Wes is the guy that invited me here to do that. And so we know there's a lot of people out there that have questions about competitions, whether the competitions are for fundraisers, and that's how ours started. I actually run a nonprofit here in our community, and we did it to raise funds for the nonprofit. Every one of our competitions goes to a portion of the profits go to a nonprofit. We live by the slogan, eat barbecue, drink beer, do good. And in the last year, we've given right at about $60,000 to nonprofits, and we're pretty excited about. Wes asked, what's the basics of barbecue event building? I think the first basic in doing that is to find a town where there's a niche for that. Every one of our towns that we live in have great events, but a barbecue, it's hard to get more American than barbecue and beer. So that was a great niche for us. But find a great town where barbecue is. I don't care if you're up north, if you're in the south, if you're in the Midwest. I've lived all over this country, and everybody loves barbecue. So I think the first thing is to find a city that's going to get behind that, because if the city that you're in is not behind the event's not going to be successful. And we actually don't go out and sell our events. We wait for cities to call us, and right now we have a waiting list. That's how successful and how much desire these cities have, because they're looking for something for their community to do. And so I think that's the first thing. The second thing I would tell you, Wes, is to get involved in a sanctioning body. There's so many great sanctioning bodies out there for barbecue. For us, as I said earlier, that relationship was the Georgia Barbecue Association. We know there was KCBS all around, and KCBS is a great organization that does great things. We liked the GBA. After meeting with representatives from both, we felt the GBA kind of fit our vibe a little bit better. We like that they're all about the pig. There's ribs, there's the pork butt, there's the pork loin, and like I said, we're adding whole hog to our Canton. And so I'll get to that question in a minute, James. So find a sanctioning body, because here's the deal. I thought I could do it unsanctioned. I thought, man, I can throw $10,000, $20,000 out there. And you know what? At the end of the day, I probably could have. But having a sanctioned body, having sanctioned judges, having a pool of people who are members of that sanctioning body are a game changer in getting us to the point where people actually want to come. What would be the craziest meats you would put into an event? For us, again, because we do GBA events, James, we're required to do what they do. And what they do is pork loin, they do pork butt, and they do ribs. But I think you could do whatever. I've been to competitions. In the last year, I've been to probably 20 different competitions. And what I have learned is, man, I've seen them where they do wings. I've been to where they've done gator. For us, we don't do a lot of wild things. We do because Reformation Brewery here in Woodstock, Georgia is one of our big sponsors. We do a Reformation Brewery cook-off where they can cook whatever they want, but it's got to have Reformation beer in it, and that seems to go huge, especially in our sponsors. They love that. And so, but I think at the end of the day, as an ancillary, you can do whatever you want to do. Make it wild, make it fun. I've been to barbecue competitions where they had Bloody Marys as part of the competition. Who don't like a good Bloody Mary? Our barbecue comp's intimidating. Kenny, I don't compete in them, but they seem pretty intimidating to me. I just put them on. Putting them on can be intimidating. I mean, it is definitely a balancing act of what you do and what you don't do. When you've got some of the biggest names in barbecue coming to your competition, guys like Robbie Royal, who have won Pitmasters on television, Brad, who was on this Facebook Live last week. I mean, we've got several big names, but then you've got the backyard guys who are coming in their pickup truck with their homemade smoker and trying to create an environment where everyone feels accepted and everyone feels like they can have a great time and everyone feels like they can be part of what's going on is huge. One thing that we've done to even kind of add up, I don't know if it's to add to the intimidation or to make things a little bit better. James, Lonnie is coming. This is the first Barbecue and Brews event that Lonnie has come to. It's just not worked out. The stars have not aligned, and we're excited about having Bubba Grills there. So what would you recommend for small town, low budget events to draw barbecue vendors? Now, there's a difference between barbecue vendors and barbecue competitors. So, Clint, are you asking about guys that want to compete in your competition, or are you asking about guys that will come and sell barbecue? And so just let me know. Brian, you ought to come. Brian Martin, where are you located at? You say your friends say you ought to enter. You ought to find a local barbecue competition somewhere. Enter as a backyard competitor, cooking for fun, learn what to do, and it's a blast. I think my favorite thing of every event we do, yes, yeah, well, I guess James just won that shirt, huh? Well, you got to come up with better questions. I already told that. And so, Brad's on here, and like I said, Brad has done every one of our competitions. Brad is famous in barbecue and brews world. Here's what Brad's known at. Every competition we do, Brad tells us he can't make the competition. He's not coming to the competition. And then 3 days before, he says he's coming. So, like, soon as we announce a competition, we just put Brad down. We know he's coming. We know he's going to be joining us. Even though he tells us he's not coming, he's always there. Matter of fact, his guys just contacted us today about getting signed up for ours in 2 weeks, so that's actually a lot different for him. The basic cost to do a competition, I compete now, but I want to create an event. What do I need to expect? James, for us, it's expensive. It depends on your payout. For us, we know that we're going to spend about $13,000 to $14,000 and a barbecue competition. Right off the bat, it's about $10,000, right at $10,500 in payout money. Depending on where you're having that, we have to bring outside electricity in. Most of our events are in downtown areas, or they're in big fields. If you could find a campground, a fairground, something like that, where you don't have to do electricity and bring in outside electricity, you're immediately going to eliminate about $3,000. And here's the deal. There's no money. Let me give you the untold secret of barbecue competitions. Are you ready? There's no money in barbecue competitions. So if you're going to do a barbecue competition only, you're going to lose your ass on that competition. But you take that competition and hold on, I'm trying to see what the rest is. Yes, I got t-shirts we'll give away. James, I don't know who the SCBA is. Here's what we know. That's the kind of money we give out if you want to draw the big dogs. If you want to pack it out with people, and that just seems to work for us, we throw it out there. Kenny, I don't know if there's any competitions in Iowa, but I did live in Ames, Iowa for about 5 years, and I'm sure the KCBS, being that close to Kansas City, has all kinds of competitions in that area. But you take that barbecue competition and you lock it in with a festival. Our money is made in all of our festivals. Our festivals are $5 to get in. We have anywhere from 100 to 125 vendors that are paying anywhere from $150 to $450 a pop to be there. And then, of course, we have an alcohol license, and we're serving all the alcohol. And we go through, on average, about 10 to 11,000 16-ounce cups of beer at every one of our festivals. To give you a little feedback on that, alcohol, like it or not, is where your money is. We have about 73 cents in every beer, and we sell them for $5. And so you can do the numbers there. That's exactly how we make them. David Richter, $22,000 is our payout, and that is our. How does the health department affect, James? They normally do not affect us. We know in every town that the health department can show up. They normally don't. They allow us to fall under the heading of the festival. We're not, as the festival promoters, we're not responsible to deal with anything with the health department. The public is not going and buying barbecue from the competitors, and so the individual barbecue vendors that are there that are selling their barbecue are the ones that have to make sure they're up to code. We've been lucky. Let's knock on some wood right here. We've been lucky that we haven't had any health inspectors show up at our stuff. We give out the requirements. We get them from the county, whatever county that we're in. We make sure that every food vendor understands the requirements, and they understand that they are responsible for their taxes, and they are responsible to make sure that they meet code in every one of those situations. So that's just kind of how we do it, and that's how it works here in Georgia. I assume it works that way everywhere else. I'm not positive how that works, and but that has kind of been our MO on that. Gary Godfrey just joined in. Gary has competed in every one of our competitions, even won grand champion at one of our competitions, and We love him. We love his wife a whole lot more than him. And they got a new little boy named Bentley who we think's awesome, and we can't wait to see him in a couple of weeks. And so if you're in Georgia, I would encourage you to come out to Canton in 2 weeks, the last week in April, the 28th, 29th, and 30th. Like I said, when is the next near Marietta, Greg? We're in Canton the last week in April, so we're about 25 minutes north of you, April 28th, 29th, and 30th. The barbecue competition starts the 28th and goes to the 29th, and the 29th through 30th we add a different element to it called Whole Hog. And so I would encourage you to come up. Greg, you come up, I'll make sure you get tickets to get in, I'll buy your first beer. You find me and I'll do that for you. We'd love to have you come up and join us for the Barbecue and Brews Canton Festival. It's going to be an incredible event. Chris, Arkansas, I bet there's some great barbecue in Arkansas and probably some great festivals up that way. And let me make a distinction here between barbecue competitions and barbecue festivals, because here's the reality of the situation. You can put on a great barbecue festival and never have a barbecue competition. So we're actually exploring in some of these smaller towns that Greg, it is not the same place as the powwow. You'll come up 575 and you'll get off at exit 19. It's at Etowah River Park. Google it, 600 Brown Industrial Parkway, Etowah River Park. So pretty close. Actually, it's the same place the powwow is moving to this year. But hey, as I was getting back to a festival, if you're wanting to make money, there's a whole lot more money in festivals than there is competitions. And so for a festival, what we deem as a barbecue festival is we make sure that the only food there that is served is barbecue. So every one of our food vendors that are serving meal type food have to be barbecue vendors. We bring in we normally bring in one barbecue vendor for every 1,000 people that we are expecting. So for a one-day festival, we bring in about 10 to 12. Greg, I look forward to it. Find me at the festival. First beer's on me. But we normally bring in 10 to 12 barbecue vendors. Our barbecue competitors are not serving food. James, how do you advertise and what are you spending there? You know what? So far, every bit, 100% of every bit of advertising that we do on Facebook. And we normally keep a very low budget on that to be. If you have not mastered the art of Facebook advertising, I encourage you to get online and Google it. Without a doubt, it is the most bang for your buck. It works great for us. We budget about $350 and get anywhere from 150 to 175,000 impressions. We do contact the local papers and get the local papers to write about us in every town that we go into. We spread the word, but hands down, without a doubt, our Facebook page and our Facebook event page, boosting posts, advertising those in the area, using hashtags, barbecue competition, live music, vendors, festival, hashtagging, learning the power of hashtags is how we've done it. There's no other way that we could get that bang for that buck. $350 is normally our budget for our advertising, a very low budget. And like I said, the smallest event we've done has drawn about 10,000 people. Neil, I think that's a great area, getting people together. We're actually doing that here the last weekend in July. We've got about 10 barbecue teams, local teams here, if you don't know them, Angel Fire, 441 South, Smoking Moe's, Pirates of Barbecue, I can't remember, East Coast Barbecue. They're all coming into our parking lot, and we're cooking about 600 to 750 pounds of pork butts that we're going to give out. I'm part of a nonprofit that runs a very large back-to-school carnival right before school starts back. They bring an entire carnival in, and all those guys are getting together for the night. We're going to drink a lot of liquor, a lot of whiskey, and we're going to cook a lot of butts to give a hot meal to all these underprivileged kids in the part of town where our nonprofit is, and it might be the only warm meal or the hot meal they get that day. So we're excited about that. Neil, what you'll find is the barbecue community is the most giving community I've ever been part of. At every one of our events, the leftover food goes to feeding the homeless in the community. Most of the teams donate what they have left over for that. Ethan and I have never done lamb or goat. My last name's Lamb, so on principle, I refuse to eat lamb, and goat just sounds freaking horrible to me. Though it might be good. Though I need a goat for my yard right now where they can cut all the grass in there. So that's where we're at. If you haven't went to our Facebook page, Barbecue and Brews, I would encourage you to find that on Facebook and keep up with what we're doing. This year, like I said, we have 4. This year we have 4 competitions. Our goal next year is to add 6 to 8 competitions all over North Georgia. Basically, our life goal is to stress the Georgia Barbecue Association out the most. I come to them with the biggest ideas, the best ideas. We go after the biggest names. We make sure they're accommodated, they're taken care of. We know the guys that we want there because we know the big names are going to draw people out to the festival, and that is a huge thing for us. We've actually taken a lot of heat for that, catering to some of the bigger names, and here's the reality. They tell me you can't play favorites, and I play favorites. I play favorites to those who are favorites to me, and we've got some guys, like I said, Brad Sweet's on here, Robbie Royal, Lonnie Smith. All these guys have been so good to us in promoting our events. When you get the barbecue competitors pushing your event, what you're going to find, especially these guys that have been on TV, they've got a following. And probably one of our best volunteers for every one of our events is a guy named Jerry who just loves Brad Sweet, and he came to the very first festival to see Brad, and he's been back at every one of our events to serve and to work and to do whatever was necessary, all because of Brad. And so we love that and we appreciate that out there. Is there anybody out there that has actually put on barbecue competitions? Is anybody out there put on barbecue festivals? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear what you've learned, what you've not learned. I would love to hear. Let me ask you guys some questions. How about you guys that have entered into competitions? What are some things you would like to see the promoters of the event do? Is there accommodations that you could have? Because one of our goals also is to go above and beyond to all the competitors, to make sure that they feel that, man, we appreciate them being there, that we love them being there. And so I would love to hear some of you barbecue teams out there. What are some things that you would like to see the sanctioning festival people or the competition sanctioning people or the promoters do for you guys? Wes, some building blocks. Here's the deal. Number 1 building block, find a sanctioning body. Whatever sanctioning body you want to be part of. Or in Georgia, you're in Georgia. If it's the GBA, the KCBS, the GBC, Memphis Barbecue still around as a skeleton, find a organizing body, and they're going to give you the building blocks. When we deal with the GBA, they gave us a template, a step-by-step template of what we needed to do. There was really no debate about it. There was no questions about it. They knew what needed to be done. So we followed their checklist to a T. I just had a staff change this week, 2 weeks before our biggest festival of the year, and we easily were able to get rid of someone who probably was not a good fit, put somebody in who's a great fit, and easily say, here's the checklist, here's what the GBA is going to require, make it happen, go right down the list. And I tell you, don't reinvent the wheel. These people know what it takes to put on a great event. They know what it takes to put on a great event. Ray, I bet it is a huge area out in Houston. There's no, I'm scared to say this in Georgia where we're all about the pig, but man, there's no barbecue like the barbecue in Texas, man. I love the way everything they do about it. And Ray, you've got some of the biggest barbecue competitions and barbecue festivals in America there. We've actually talked about doing a barbecue festival tour in Texas, heading out that way, going to some of the great barbecue joints, checking out some of the festivals. We were actually the other day mapping out on the calendar when those festivals were to see if we could go out there on a 3-week trip and get involved in every one of those things. So, Ray, you're blessed out there, but I'm sure there's still, Ray, it probably is intimidating, but here's what you're going to find out. Ray, are you thinking about entering a barbecue competition? James, most events are some type of Meals on Wheels or something like that. What percentage do those places actually get? James, I don't totally understand your question. Are you saying that most of the leftover food normally goes to those organizations, and you're wanting to know what percentage of the food goes to those organizations? Or kind of clarify, James, and I will do my best to answer that question. Ray, if you're talking about entering a competition, do it. enter in for cooking for fun, backyard cooking, whatever the sanctioning body that you're trying to be part of, and just go do it. What I have found out is a lot of competitions separate the pro teams and the backyard teams. We do not do that, and so we mix them all together, because here's the deal: the backyard guys want to be around the big time guys. They want to be around the pro teams. They want to learn. And what I have found out, at least in the GBA, I don't know about other sanctioning bodies, but in the GBA, all of the pro teams are willing to bend over backwards and help the backyard teams. Show them tips, show them how to go about doing stuff. And so right enter in, I think you're going to find it one of the most accepting communities out there. The barbecue community is awesome. They're super accepting. They're super awesome, and you're going to love it. Wes, I don't even know who the SCBA is, and if they do fundraising with events, that's awesome. The GBA does not do fundraising with their events, though I would say many of the events that GBA does, the promoting body has a lot to do. Like I said, all of our events, a large percentage of all the profits go, anywhere from 25 to 50% of the profits stay in the community with local nonprofits. If you're promoting a competition, what it benefits the Boy Scouts, or what percentage of the money do they actually see? James, that is different for everything. So for example, some of our festivals, it depends. We have different requirements for different percentages. So depending on how many sponsorships you can help us get, how many volunteers you can provide for us, what you can bring to the table, it can be upwards of 50%. Our LJ Festival with the Rotary Club up there, they get 50% of the profits. So whatever's made that day, profit, they get 50% of that. I'm trying to rebuild a very sad small town fall event that draws low and won't like the idea. Call, should I just walk away from this lost cause? Ken, I don't know. I don't think you should walk away. I think that, are you in the South, Kent? Clint, I'm sorry. Ray, how do you find a sanctioning body in the community? All you got to do is look online. No matter where you're at, the KCBS is going to be there. But I'm sure there's several, especially in Texas, I'm sure there's several other sanctioning organizations. So get online, Google it, call them. That's exactly what we did. We got online, we Googled it, we found the Georgia Barbecue Association. We set up a meeting with them, and we set it up. Clint, in the small Clint, give me the name of the town. I'm close to South Carolina, so I might know the town. What I think you've got to find out is you just got to go in there and hobnob with some of the city people. Our event last year in Canton was the first event in our city's history. They allowed alcohol to be served. Well, that's a lie. They allowed liquor to be served. And we jumped through a lot of hoops for that. We paid a lot of money to reassure them that we were going to have police there, security there, paramedics there. We bent over backwards to alleviate every fear they had had. Our festival in LJ last year was the first time they had ever allowed alcohol at an outside festival. We did everything in our power to alleviate their fears. And so that's what we did. Can you show protecting your competition from being stolen and protecting trade names? Brian, no, I can't, because everybody's stealing my ideas. Protecting your competition. I own all the competitions, and that's a great thing with the GBA is I own my dates. So, for example, with the GBA, I own 4 dates. I own the first weekend in April. I own the last weekend in April. I own the first weekend in September, and I own the first weekend in October. Nobody can steal those dates. They might come in and steal my city, but we make sure that our cities love us. One thing that we do very well is accommodate our city. We bend over backwards to alleviate every fear in our city. We go out of our way. If our city's asking for $25 an hour for police officers, we pay $35 an hour. We make sure that all the city workers that are helping us are taken care of with barbecue. We make sure they receive free entry into the festivals. Our cities literally beg us to come back. As far as trademarking is actually something we're in the process of looking into legally, as far as the name Barbecue and Brews, as far as our logos, as far as the way our things are structured. And it's very hard in our country to get things trademarked. There's a lot of hoops to jump through to get everything done in that. So we're weighing the cost right now. At the end of the day, We're just deciding we're going to do what we do. We're going to put on the best events in Georgia. And if other groups come along and try to do it cheaper, they might do it cheaper. They're not going to do it better. James, those last 2 dates, are we on the, with the first week in April, the last week in April, we have the first weekend in September and the last weekend in, first weekend in September and the first weekend in October. So I can move those events to any town that will have me. Those are my dates, barbecue and brew dates with the GBA, and I'm looking to grab 2 more from them, but I try to ease myself into them because they're already scared to death of coming to North Georgia. Man, how would I love you, dude? How do you find the time? How do I find the time? I don't sleep. Ray, I sleep literally, I'm not joking, I'm not trying to be funny, I sleep about 3 or 4 hours a day. You'll probably find this surprising because I put on barbecue festivals and craft brew festivals. I actually pastor a church here that I started in Canton, Georgia. I run a nonprofit called For Canton in our town. I have 4 kids, I have a wife, and I don't have a lot of hobbies. I don't sit around at night watching TV. I don't play sports. I don't play golf. My hobbies is putting on events. James, September and October, where will you be this year? In September, we will be in Ellijay, Georgia, Labor Day weekend. If you've never been to Ellijay, Georgia, man, you're missing out, especially on Labor Day. And the first week in October, we'll be in Woodstock, Georgia. So, James, if you're close, come join us. Ray, I just choose to say no to good things, where I can say yes to great things. So like I said, when a lot of guys are on the golf course, I'm out putting on events. When a lot of guys are sitting there binge watching Netflix, I'm out doing festivals. It's just what I love to do. It's what puts food on my table. It what provides for my family. And we've got very good at it. I actually own a company called Revival South that does events. So barbecue events are not the only type of events I do. I do anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15 events a year. And 4 of those, Revival South actually puts on the barbecue and brews festival. So who in your mind cooks the best Q? James, you know I can't answer that question because here's the deal. I'm depending on every one of these guys to come compete. And so if I say one of them's the best, they're not going to come. But when it comes to local barbecue at our festivals, as far as vendors, I have 3 favorites, man. I always tell people always ask me, who has the best barbecue at your festivals? And I always say this, if you're looking for old school, sloppy, messy, dirty barbecue here in our town, we got one of our vendors, Smoke and Moe's Barbecue, and Chip August, long beard, no shoes on, running around his trailer. He looks like he's been crawling around in his smoker. He's the best. And if you want new school barbecue and you want some of the best brisket you've ever had, some of the new spin on Southern barbecue with a little modern twist, I think he's actually a member of this Facebook page. It's hard to beat Kevin Ward in 441 South Barbecue. And Kevin started competing with us last year at our Canton event. He competed in our Ellijay event, and he opened up his trailer and started vending at our Cartersville event and killed it. He, in my opinion, 441 South, and he actually won our Ellijay event with the GBA, has the best brisket you'll ever taste in your life. And so, Clint, a revival event might hear, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I actually own a music venue called The Revival too, though, so I don't know if that was in reference to that. And so I own I put on music through that. It's fixing to be a full bar, full music venue, and so always got something going on. Brian, I'm going to put you on the spot since we talk a lot. Who do you think has the best barbecue? Brian Farrell, who has the best barbecue, do you think? So how many guys out there in Facebook land are on competitive teams? You are in competitions at least once a year. You've got a team that you put out there. I would love to hear from you guys, because again, I'm going to ask that question. What can we do as promoters to help you want to be part of our competition? Do you come because of the community? Do you come because of the money that's being given away? Do you come because of the event, the location? Is it because how the promoters treat you? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? James, Chris, what do you guys think? What draws you when you're choosing to go to barbecue competitions or enter into barbecue competitions? What is it that makes you decide this is the festival I'm going to, I'm skipping this festival? Answer that question for me. So, like I said, I'm going to try to do a good job. If you'll go to my Facebook page, I think a good bluegrass barbecue revival event can help this town. Clint, you might be right. Now, let me push back on you, Clint. Let me push back on you. Every small town deals with bluegrass. They deal with revival type things. And so what we have found out, because all of our events are in small towns too, we go to these small towns and we do just the opposite. We find out that the young people are sick of bluegrass. They're sick of a revival type atmosphere. So what we do is we bring in some of the biggest names in country music. We bring in some rock music. We, instead of doing just regular domestic beer, we bring in craft beer. We try to come into the town, Clint, and do just the opposite of what everyone else in that town's doing. Because if everyone else is doing it and the town's still dying, the problem might be that what they're doing is not connecting. And young people do not want to go to a festival and listen to bluegrass music, with all due respect to bluegrass music. And so that's just the reality of it. And that's that small Southern mentality. And I grew up in the South, and I love the South, and I appreciate the South. But man, if I go to another festival where they're playing bluegrass music, it makes me want to kill myself. Neil, I think I misunderstood my question. I really want to try and let's do some smoke across the country to help feed the elderly themselves. Can you help me get this going with all the man, I'll help you do anything you want to do, Neil. You contact me. Payouts and the equality events. Your events. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. And so we do. We try to step up in the money area. We're trying to figure out ways right now so that we understand that it's a very expensive endeavor to enter into a barbecue competition, man. It's a very expensive thing to deal with the meat, the entry fees. And so, man, we want to make it worth your while. Some of the things that we do that we've heard a lot of barbecue competitions don't do, and again, we didn't know this, we just started doing it, is every Friday night after the cooks meeting, right before the guys get going, we bring in some of our sponsors. Some of our sponsors are always craft breweries. So they come in and they serve beer to all the competitors, nothing like good drunk barbecue competitors. We bring in food. We've done low country boils. We feed all the barbecue teams. And let me give you some advice. Do not feed barbecue teams barbecue. It's the last thing in the world that they want. But we bring them in. We feed them for free. We give them drinks for free. And then every Saturday morning, right when they're getting up, we serve breakfast for free. Man, we want them to know, man, you've been cooking all night. You've had broken sleep all night. You're about to have to hit turn-in time. The one thing we want you to do is be able to get a good hot meal in there. And so, Bill Mays, I love the blues too, but again, the problem is all these towns have felt like it was so safe for so long to bring in bluegrass music and blues music. Man, bring in some rock and roll music. Bring in some country music. It would be recognition of how many barbecues and smiles on the face enjoy my passions. James Humphreys, do you do barbecue competitions? So many comments come in I haven't kept up. I can't remember. I feel like you told me you did, or I can't remember. One thing we started doing in our last barbecue competition, and that was because Brad Sweet told us to, straight up it was the reason, is we used to think that part of the barbecue competition, it was a downer to bring them up on the main stage for the award ceremony, and we thought it killed the festival. He encouraged us to do it, and I'm going to tell you something, they packed out the stage. It was one of the best moves we made as far as bring it into the festival, because that's another challenge you're going to have when you're doing a barbecue competition and you're doing a festival at the same time, is how do you tie in the barbecue competition with the festival? So for us, it's hard because our barbecue competitors are not serving food, they're not giving out food, they're there for money, they're there for points, and people show up and they've seen these names, they've seen Brad Sweet, they've seen Lonnie Smith, they've seen Robbie Royal, they've seen these names, and now they want to try their barbecue, but they show up and they can't eat their barbecue, and we can't allow them to serve barbecue because they don't meet health inspector standards. And also, if they're giving away barbecue, then our barbecue vendors are not selling barbecue, and if they're not selling barbecue, they're not coming back to a future competition. So we've kind of, what has had to happen to us is the barbecue competition in some ways has become this little side part of the festival, and we're working very, very hard to change that. We're working very hard to get that tied in to the whole show and let people know the competition is part of the festival. Go down, walk around the barbecue guys, go walk around the smokers, ask them questions. And that's another reason we love the GBA. When we go to GBA events, man, the guys are more than willing to sit around and talk shop. And so these guys that have walked around and they want, I kind of equate to going into the pits at NASCAR. So go on down there and do that. So I would encourage you, make sure the competition and the festival kind of mesh together. James, I would encourage you to enter a competition. Again, like I said, my favorite thing in the world is when the first time guys show up and they're nervous, they're worried, and we stick them right by the big dogs, and they're in awe. And man, that they think it's the greatest thing in the world to be there by those guys. And don't go pro right off the bat. Go master the cooking for fun. Go master the backyard barbecue. We've got a guy, Napalm Sticks to Pigs, who's done every one of our competitions, and they were doing them to the point that they were demolishing everybody in the cooking for fun categories. And we had to tell them this last time, man, it might be time for you guys to go pro. And they saw it, but you know what? They got their feet wet in the cooking for fun. The cooking for one isn't as many meats. It's less pressure. It doesn't have the double turn-in times. And so on the competition, how do I get a team together? I love to smoke food, but really don't want to hang outside my yard and sharing my food with people who just love my cooking. Neil, I think putting a team together is pretty easy. You're the pit master. You're the one that knows how to barbecue. You can be a one-man team. You can be a one-man wolf pack if you want to be. But what I would do is grab you some guys who you love doing life with, man. You love to drink beer with, you love to hang out with. Invite about 2 of them to come hang out with you for the weekend and tell them, man, you're going to need help keeping the fire going. You're going to need help keeping the temperature set. You're going to need help getting the meats ready. You're going to need their help as they're looking to do turn-ins. And just have a good time doing it. But again, Neil, maybe the first one you do by yourself. A lot of our first-time guys come by themselves, and they do the event by themselves, where they can learn the nuances of it, the ebb and flow of it, and then just bring some friends in to join you, man. Listen, it is a competition, but it's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, then why are we doing it? Yes, there's big money on the line, but if it's not fun, but Brad Sweet's on here, I think Brad has done all 3 of our events, and the first 2 events he did for us, he cooked solo. No, excuse me, the first and the third he cooked solo, and I think the second event in LJ he had 1 person with him. But this last one in Cartersville, to this day, a pro team, one of the biggest names in barbecue, and he's still out there cooking solo. And so, man, there's just something to say about it. I like it when Brad's there cooking solo because he's dabbling around. I got to stop by, eat some of the stuff he's making. Normally I step in, the teams get all protected. Brad's too busy to realize I'm sneaking over and stealing food from him, so it works out real well. Wes, have you ever been to one of our events? I know you're south of Atlanta, but have you been to one of our events yet? And if not, why not? I'm asking you right now. No, Wes, you need to come to one of our events. You need to come up to Canton the last weekend in April and join. Oh, you have been. Wes, which one did you come to? Canton, Cartersville, or LJ? Canton, Cartersville, or LJ? So, inquiring minds want to know. Wes, have you ever competed in one of our competitions, or you've just come and stole barbecue from everybody? And so, Canton, Wes came to our very first event ever, and it was a cluster in every aspect of the way. It was in a downtown area. Wes judged, awesome. It was insane. We had more teams than we had room for. We had rooms in the police station. We had teams in the police station parking lot in the city hall. How do I find out when events are held in Wilmington, North Carolina? Neil, you just got to Google them, baby. You got to go find some sanctioning bodies and find out. Tell Wilmington, North Carolina that Barbecue and Brews needs to come there. I'll get the GBA in Wilmington, North Carolina. Anywhere there's a beach, I need to do a barbecue competition on the beach. Not that I want to do one, I need to do one. So if you're in a beach town in the south, I'll do that. Ray, when is LJ? I have a friend that lives there. It's super easy. It's Labor Day weekend. It's Labor Day weekend every year. It's hard to do a festival and a competition on a holiday weekend. It's the benefit of living in the downtown area. There's cars driving by nonstop. It's hard to do a competition and a festival in a holiday weekend, but LJ's a tourist town, so everybody goes there on a holiday weekend, and so we were able to pull that off, and I think we ended up with right at about 12 or 13,000 people at that event. I think we ended up with right at about 40 teams. We were in a field. We had no running water. We were running water off a fire truck. It was insane, crazy, and insane blast. I can't wait to do it again. So, Neil, get in with Wilmington and, get with your city officials and tell them to bring barbecue and brews to town. We'll have a blast there. So, I'll keep going as long as you guys want to go. So, Brad has DQ'd in the finals. He DQ'd in the finals in LJ. Now it makes sense to me on why Brad is the one. He needs to change 92 barbecue. It needs to be called One Man Wolfpack Barbecue. And so, because he is a beast, man. He shows up. He's got, it's funny though, in Cartersville, he showed up with a smaller setup. And we actually had people who came out to see him that were mad that he didn't have his big rig out there, because if you haven't seen Brad's setup, it's a pretty sweet setup, and there's always beer available at Brad's setup too, so that's always a good thing. So, like I said, if you're in the Southeast, man, I don't care if you're in Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, anywhere close to North Georgia, the last weekend in April, 2 weeks from now, you need to come to Canton, Georgia. Get you a hotel room. Bring a camper. I'll find a spot for you to sleep here at the festival grounds. Like I said, we have a GBA-sanctioned event, double points Friday through Saturday. Then Saturday to Sunday, we've got whole hog for another $10,000. It's a total of $22,000 in prize money. I'm sure there is, but I don't know of an event in North Georgia, at least, that has more prize money, especially for a second year. How big of a rig do I need to start competing? Robert, you don't need a rig at all, man. We've got guys that show up with Weber grills and turn them into smokers and start cooking. We've got guys that show up with homemade smokers. We got a guy in Cooking for Fun. Our last event, I think he placed second and on a Weber Smoky Mountain. So, we've got a guy, listen to this. We've got a guy in our Cooking for Fun division who shows up with all the big rigs and everything. He shows up in a Toyota Camry, 2 Weber grills, and a pop-up tent, and he has a blast, man. He's a one-man team. He's a one-man wolf pack. And he shows up, and he does his thing, and he has a blast, and we always like having him at the event. So, listen, it's not about, hey, I know your wife's probably told you this. It's not about the size. It's how you use it. So it's not about the size of your rig. It's how you smoke on it. So Clint, you need to listen. The air show will always be there. You need to come to Canton, Georgia, the last weekend in April and party with us. Man, you hit me up ahead of time. I'll make sure. James, our Cooking for Fun does pay out. It does not pay out huge, but it does pay out. I think, don't quote me on this because every event we do is different. I think the winner wins $500. I think second place is, I don't remember what we pay out in that, but we do pay out in our Cooking for Fun. We pay out for the top 3 people. And so it works good for us. And it works good for them. Gives them a little bit of spending money back. And we don't have a lot of Cooking for Fun teams. I would say anywhere from 10 to 15. We get a lot of pro teams. Robert, bring that char grill. Bring it on. Listen, get on it, man. It don't matter what you come with. It's about having fun. Brad, at our Cartersville event, had a lady right next to him, an older lady. If I remember correctly, she told me she was a widow. She showed up in a horse trailer. She slept in her horse trailer. She did the entire competition by herself. And at the end of the event, she told me she had a blast. Listen, you will not beat the community. You will not beat the laughs. You will not beat the camaraderie. It is a phenomenal thing to be part of. I've been blown away by what happens in the barbecue community. And they literally, I know this sounds cheesy as hell, but they literally are a family. Do you guys have specific meat decisions? Nate, do we have specific meats that we use in our competition, different cuts? Specify a little bit more divisions. Yeah, we have 3 areas in the GBA, so you have to enter every one of those. I actually don't know if that's true or not. Brad can tell you if that's true. But, because again, I don't cook in the competitions. But in the GBA, the Georgia Barbecue Association that we're part of, they do pork butt, they do pork loin, and they do ribs. And then, like I said, for our Canton event, we're doing whole hog. So the GBA is all about the pig. We always add on brisket as an add-on. It's winner takes all. And so normally about 10 to 12 teams will enter into that. They'll cook the brisket. Depending on how many teams, I believe it's $50 to enter into that. And so, you know, if 10 teams win, the winner takes all, he wins $500. If 12 teams enter in, he wins $600. But it doesn't count towards the point total. It's not necessarily part of the GBA, though the judges in that competition do the judging for that too. So you could add anything. In our Canton cook-off, we've got a Reformation Brewery category that we've added. You can cook anything you want with a Reformation Brewery beer, and so winner takes all. And I think the last time I looked, we've got 10 or 12 teams signed up for that. It's just a fun thing to do. The Reformation Brewery thing will be on Friday night. So they'll come, they'll cook it real quick, whether it's a chili, whether it's a hamburger, whether it's a piece of chicken, whatever it is, they'll do that, and they'll have a blast with it. A lot of them are doing porter-infused brisket, and so we can't wait for that aspect of it. So it should be a lot of fun in that. Hey man, I've enjoyed being on here tonight. Any other questions, any other thoughts, anything that's going on, I would be glad to answer those. Anything you got, man, let me know. I would encourage you, get online in whatever town you're in, Google BBQ Competition, Google BBQ Festival, and go out and check out one. You're going to have a blast. I understand we're all backyard smokers. I dabble with it. I've got a Weber Smoky Mountain. I've got a Big Green Egg. That's about the extent of what I can do. I basically can smoke a pork butt, and anything else I ruin, and I make a mean-ass steak on a Big Green Egg. But other than that, the grass does look green, Mike, because the grass is weeds. And so I'm down here, I live in the ghetto of the town that I live in, and so we don't really get grass down here in Georgia. We get weeds, and so that's what I got a lot of, is weeds down here. So Wes, man, thank you guys for having us. Find me on Facebook. Send me a private message. I don't care how many of you sent it to me. Send me a private message, and I'd love to send you out a Barbecue and Brews Festival shirt for free. Like I said, find me on Facebook, send me a private message, and I'll get those t-shirts out to you as soon as I have time to do that. Man, we'd love for you to be rocking Barbecue and Brews shirts all over the country. I've seen guys on here from Washington, California, Vegas. Man, let us know what we can do. Clint, thank you, man. I've enjoyed. Hey, you come down and join us, man, and I'll make sure you're taking care of that. Brad, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Hey, Backyard Smokers, thanks for having us, dudes. Hit me up on Facebook, private message, St. Louis, Missouri, and I'll get you guys a Barbecue and Brews shirt out. We'll talk to you guys later.